Check, check, check. Does that sound good? Volume? Okay. right, welcome. We're going to get started tonight. My name is Rebecca Overstreet. If this is your first night joining us or we haven't met, I'm Rebecca Overstreet. I'm one of the ministry leaders for Interwoven. We're really excited to have you here tonight for our second and final week of our Intro to Adoption and Foster Care information class. Tonight, our focus for the beginning is going to be on foster care. Last week, we had more of an emphasis on adoption. So we're going to talk about foster care in the county, and then we are going to be joined by a panel of Cornerstone families who have adopted domestically, internationally, and foster family as well. So they're going to share their experience with you, and you're going to get to ask them all your tough questions. I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to introduce our guests for the evening. Lord Jesus, thank you for tonight. Lord, we thank you for all of the families that are here who are just interested in adoption and foster care and are just here to discern if this is what you're calling them to do. Lord, we pray that you give each family here wisdom. We pray that you help us as ministry leaders and a ministry to support these families. Thank you so much for your love for us and for adopting us into your family. In Jesus' name, amen. So tonight I'm going to introduce Heather Sabatino. She is from the Department of Family Services, and she's going to talk to us about foster care in Loudoun County. Thank you.
Hi there. How is everyone? Good. So I am just jumping into this. Someone else was going to be here today. So I'm going to work off some notes here. But again, my name's Heather Sabatino. I've been with Loudoun County Foster Care and Adoption since 2004. I've been with the foster care department the entire time. And I have worked a number of different positions within the department or within the unit, within the department. Everything from our independent living coordinator, permanency worker, which is our adoption worker. I am now the resource team supervisor. So I supervise all the folks who work with our foster families. So I supervise our recruiter, our trainer, and our foster parent support, our foster parent MFA, a mutual family assessment worker, who's the one who does the home studies, does the visits, and our number of other positions within that unit. So I have a variety of experience all in foster care. So hopefully that will help answer any questions that you guys have today. I'm going to start off, I'm going to loosely go off of our presentation here. This is when we do info sessions once or twice a month online. And this is the framework in which our recruiter does. So I might just slowly or quickly go through some slides to allow for time. But if I'm going to go ahead and do the one video, this is one of our foster parents of the year from, I think, last year or the year before.
We always wanted to help children, and in the pursuit of adoption is when we discovered fostering. So we've been resource parents since 2017. We didn't even tell a lot of people, I don't think. We just got involved because we just wanted to help children. I'm very thankful for our community. I'm very thankful for our friends and family because they've been a tremendous support.
We had a huge learning curve because, again, we don't have children of our own, so they were a very big help with the babies.
Our son Jonathan came into our home when he was straight out of the hospital from the NICU, and he has been with us ever since. He is now 5. We adopted him a couple years ago, and he's just been a beautiful kid. Josie was our first teenage placement. She came into our home at 17 years old, and we just grew to love her, and she became a part of our family now. With babies, you hear the case, you see what they're going through, and it hurts because trauma is trauma. But when you have a conversation with a teenager, and that teenager is able to express to you the things that they've suffered, the things that they've seen, that hits very different. You also have the beautiful moments when that child appreciates you, and it's a very different kind of interaction. Even though it's been probably the most difficult thing I think I've ever done in my life, it's also been the most rewarding. We've been very, very blessed to have these memories, these experiences. Whether they stay or go, those memories, those are forever.
Okay, so that was the Rivas family. They were our foster parent of the year, I believe actually 2 years ago. So every year, each county nominates a family, and then they are celebrated with the different Northern Virginia agencies, as well as Maryland and DC has a celebration where we bring families together to show all the work everyone is doing. So foster care, just in general, are there any basic words that kind of come to mind when you guys think about foster care? Anyone brave enough to say anything? No? So you're just, oh, there you go. Thank you. Yeah, change the path, right? Okay, okay. So we'll go to the next one. Okay. So, in general here, children in foster care come from many different backgrounds, many families, many different stories. And again, coming into care does change that story. It adds to that story. And it can give different opportunities that may have not existed prior to that. And that opportunity might be the healing that needs to happen in order for that child to go home and have a different path in their home. That different path doesn't always mean that they don't go back, right? That different path could be that it's now healthier to go back. So looking at that, we have children in care from 0 to 21. At the age of 18, youth have the ability, if they are in foster care at that moment, they have the ability to opt in to continuing in foster care. No one really has custody of someone who's over 18. But at 18, they have the ability to continue a connection with the agency in which allows us to help continue to financially support them in school, in their dreams for college or vocational school, or just learning skills so that they're more prepared to go out into the world at the age of 21. So that is a voluntary basis for children who are in care from there. At this point in time, I think we actually have 48 kids in care. It does say we have 49. 37 of those children are between the ages of 37 children are under the age of 18. 17 are under the age of 12. And so the majority of our kids are the teenagers and above. And that is on average the case. We will have different larger sibling groups. Sometimes that will skew it younger if we have a younger, bigger sibling group come in, and it will bring it further down. But for the most part, our children are above the age of 12. Okay. Next one. Okay, so many folks come to the idea of fostering or adopting for a variety of reasons. And what we have up here is just a couple different ideas or things that we hear often for folks when they're ready to or considering it, is they're at a different life stage. They've reached a life stage. We were just talking, Beverly, about empty nesters, right? We have the empty nester groups who are like, I'm not done parenting, right? I'm at a different point in my life. I have time, I have space, I have the finances now. I think I can enter into this. You have folks who are coming into fostering because they're at the beginning of their parenting journey, and they are, it might be an alternative to what they were maybe first expecting. And so now they're looking at this as an opportunity to get back to their community, to work with children, and to do that. We have folks who are married. We have folks who are singles who are coming forward to foster. You don't have to be one or the other. You can be a single person coming forward to do this. You can be 25. You can be 70. You can be at different points of time. There is not a typical family we're looking for, right? We're looking for a variety of families and at different points. But I think it's about recognizing where you are in your life, and are you ready? Do you have the time, the resources, the ability to accept this responsibility into your life? So these are just a couple ideas of people, what they're thinking about at this stage. Okay, and so again, with the next one is talking about, sorry, I'm just going here. Okay, so again, you're looking at, you have to be over the age of 18. That's the baseline there. You can be single, you can be married, you can, sorry, I haven't looked at this very much. Single, married, you can work outside the home, you can work inside the home, you can be a stay-at-home, right? There's not a must-have for any of those. You just have to, on the basis, have the time and the ability to provide a safe and loving home for the children that would be entering into your home. To be a foster parent, you have to agree with the mission. And the mission is that I'm working to better this child's life while they're with me, so that their parents and their family have the ability and time to remedy the issue that brought them into care, okay? And so fostering is not a road to adoption. Fostering is sometimes ends in that road, okay? But your main mission, in order to foster, is that I want to help my community and helping children and providing them a safe and loving place while they need it. And that might be a couple months, it might be forever. But that story is not known on day one, okay? And so families are really needing to have that concept and believe in that concept in order for them to be successful for themselves, you know, and feeling I'm good in my role, I sit well in this role, but also that I know I am doing well and doing right by the children who are entering into my home. Okay. So there's lots of supports for families. Obviously, there's supports for the children, right? We have Medicaid, if they're eligible for Medicaid. We have different foster care stipends. So the children in your home, there will be a stipend on a monthly basis that you would receive in order to meet that child's needs for clothing, food, you know, other resources, school supplies, things like that. So on a monthly basis, there is funding for that. If all the adults in the home, the family, the parents, all work, daycare is funded as well. So that is a good thing. People don't have to, daycare is ridiculous, expensive. So that is not something that lands on a foster parent. There's clothing allowances. There's funding for services. If this child needs therapy, or if they need tutoring, or if they need things like that, there is funding for those. For our kids who are older, who are 13 and above, and we're doing independent living work, we have also independent living stipend money that we can use to help them learn how to drive a car, help them to get vocational training and things like that. We put on other workshops to help with them to expand their skills. So there are services that are built into this as well to help the children. There is different connections to community services we were just talking about here. I know Cornerstone has one where there's the ministry that's working with families to help support and kind of wrap around them, to bring them food, to bring them meals. You have a place to person to speak to, lean your head on. And the same thing goes with other programs like Project Belong and other ones that are in our community and that we connect families with, so that you don't feel like you're alone on an island with this, but we can wrap around. So there are community supports for that. There is ongoing training that is required, but also highly recommended, so that you are continuing to learn. This is a role in which you need to continue to learn. No family is prepared from just the basic first training. It is learning to specialize in your training about trauma, and learning to specialize in your training about different, whether it might be medications or services, or how to support yourself, how to support the child, how to help them be able to attend a school and do things that they need to do to be healthier, and work with the families as well, the parents. So maintenance, I think think I did that. Adoption assistance or adoption subsidy is something that happens if adoption assistance, or sorry, you have a question?
Sorry, just while we're on this
Yeah.
slide, two questions.
Yeah.
The second bullet with the daycare.
Yeah.
Is that any daycare or is it certain daycare facilities are
Yeah.
approved?
It's,
Elaborate.
it's state approved. So it couldn't be like, my mom does a daycare in her house down the street. We can't pay for that, but we have to apply, or we have to pay for ones who are state approved. So mostly your bigger facilities and things like that.
Does that cover the full amount?
It does.
Okay. I didn't know if it was up to a certain.
Yeah, no, adoption assistance is a little bit different. That, there is some help with daycare with that, and sometimes that is a portion amount. But for foster care, it's the full amount.
And then the first one about the Medicaid
Mhm.
insurance, let's say you're fostering, is the child only on the Medicaid
Yes.
insurance, or are they eligible to be on your health insurance as the primary?
Not in fostering. Yeah, not in fostering. It would be Medicaid when they're in foster care. If they are of undocumented status, they will not be eligible for Medicaid. And so there we use different funding, out-of-pocket funding that the agency would use to make sure that we're meeting all of their medical and dental needs. But if they are a citizen or documented, they will have Medicaid.
And then I'm assuming then with that, like you have doctors' co-pays and all of that, would the co-pays fall under the last bullet, or just?
There should be no co-pays with Medicaid. Mm-mm. Yeah. And anything that falls outside of it, for some reason, if like Medicaid's not going to pay for our kids' braces and we really think that they need them, like we have other funding sources that we can go to try to meet those needs and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah. The financial piece can grow for sure. And it's usually a big area. That's why we put it early in the slides here. It's an area of concern, right? Like how much am I going to have to absorb some of this? I will say the monthly stipend that is provided probably does not meet every need that the child has in your house. Raising children are expensive, food's expensive and all of that. It does help offset it. I will say you probably spend more money than you receive, but it should help significantly. Yeah. So, okay, the next one. So I'm going to skip this one because we were having, yeah. Were you able to do that one? How much time do I have? I think I'll skip it. Yeah. Anyways, I will say on this one, if you want to go on YouTube, there is a foster parent guru. She's a foster parent Laura. She has a lot of different videos. I don't know, Beverly, if you've seen her. A lot of different videos where she literally kind of like pretends in a conversation of how to do something as a foster parent. And that one is a kind of like from the beginning to an end of different things that you might experience, like how to have a conversation about schooling or about visits or about how to come home from a visit and how to work with that child, how to transition that child out of your home, maybe back to family or things like that. And she has a lot of good resources. She does a lot of good conversations online. So the next one is really kind of the main thing here is differentiating between foster care and adoption. And I understand last week the focus was more on adoption. And it really comes down to kind of that mission-driven difference between foster care and adoption. So foster care is mission-driven, right? Which is I am going to be here for now, for however long this child or these children might need me in their story. And that story is to be written and not assumed from the very beginning. And so being open and being flexible is one of the major things that we are looking for with foster families. Flexible with your time, flexible with your heart, because I guarantee you it will be broken and you'll have hard times doing this, because it's a matter of, I have to give so much of myself in order for us to fill in some holes for a child who might be going through a lot. And so with that, it's that service, that time, that energy that you are giving to that child and their family in order to help give them the opportunity to heal, give the parents the opportunity to do what they need to do with the hopes that they would return. And if they can't return, then the secondary option is to look for family members, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, cousins, and even what we refer to as fictive kin. Fictive kin is mom's best friend who might as well be the aunt, right? Someone who's been in that child's life as long as a grandma or a grandpa. And we are looking at those folks too to see, like, can this person come forward to help supply a place and a home and time for a child to enter their home if mom and dad are maybe not ready for that. Adoption, when it's from the very beginning, if the focus for a family from the very beginning is adoption, is more often than not, I want to build my family through adoption. That is more oriented to the family, the adoptive family, versus oriented to the child and their family. And that's the major difference. One is about community service, helping, things like that. The other one's about internal, about what's happening in your home. And both are very valid, both are beautiful, but both are very different. And so with that said, is that motivation of the needs and the hopes and the dreams and often the losses of the adoptive family that have brought them to the choice to adopt. And is often more oriented towards younger or smaller children and maybe those with maybe less or no trauma. And then adoption as a permanency option of foster care is yet a different thing too as well. That means that child and that family has gone through the whole process of fostering, that they have gone in and the decision has been made for not a return home for whatever reason. A decision has been made or no family options have been found that are suitable or ready or able at that moment to have that child return. Then we move to adoption. So that means that entire process has occurred and it is the last of the options that the court and the state and the federal government is mandating us to consider. And so that is because the other ones didn't work, okay? And so that we have to look at those children and supply family around them who are willing to go the journey with them. And that is a very important concept because ideally the family who has done the journey with them and has risked their own heart and having that child come in their home and knowing that child might leave is still there and is ready at the wheel to say, okay, I can now take on this next role, which is adoptive parent. And so how long that journey takes is different in every scenario. Sometimes it can be a year, sometimes it could be 2 years. So there's a lot of work and a lot of support that families need so that they are ready and at the helm and just at the wheel, ready to take care of the children who need that. So these are just a couple resources that we can, if you want to take a little click, different things to kind of go on there, different things to read that are online that will help you in looking at different podcasts and readings and websites, things like that. So if fostering is something that you are interested in learning more about, this is, little half a step into the first step, right? Is just taking that interest you have, what brought you here into this room tonight, and exploring more about it. And as I said before, foster parenting is not a one-size-fits-all, and fostering is not for everybody. It is work. It is love. It is risk of your own heart. It's giving. It's beautiful, but it's hard, and it's hard to on your time, your commitment. It's hard to watch children and families struggle, and to be there through the storm, to be a part of that. But it's a beautiful thing, and I know that the McCulleys are going to be able to show you how beautiful it is. And so without risk, there is not that, is that beauty that comes on the other side of it. So if it is something that you are interested in, with Loudoun County, we are a public agency, right? So our focus when coming to Loudoun County is foster. Foster first, foster is the primary. There are private agencies that are out there for adoption and looking to match children and families for adoption, or private adoptions, infant-based adoptions, domestic, international, things like that. There are different agencies for that. I believe there was someone here last maybe week to talk about that. We are foster first. So when you are working with us, that's going to be the main focus. We, in an ideal way, all foster families are open to the option of adoption if it happens. But the foster is the first part. So that's part of what our main conversations will be, and looking to see if that's something that you can fit into your life, time-wise, but also just focus-wise. It is a focus. So what we do here is we do pre-screenings. So if it is something that you're interested in learning more, our recruiter, Beth Mason, is who you would be in contact with. You could call or you could email her and just say that you are interested in having a pre-screening. She'll have more of an individual conversation with you, talk about your family a little bit, talk about kind of your resources, your time, things like that, what brought you to that phone call, things like that, and talk about, is this something you possibly could explore further? If that is something you're interested in doing, she would set up the pre-screening, and she would then do an extended version of what I just did here, which is more of our info session. It's going to go over what is the process of becoming a foster parent in Loudoun County look like, the background checks and the medical checks and the interviews and the training and all of the different things that are required to become a foster parent. She will go over that with you. And again, next step, you're like, okay, I can jump on board with this. This sounds like something I'm really wanting to do. We then set up an initial home visit where Beth will come out to your home, and she will sit down with the adults in the home. And even if your kids are of an age that want to participate in the conversation, and again, get to know you more, get to know what, your areas of flexibility and time and resources and, things like that. What do you have that's available to give? And from there, she comes back to our team and shares with our team, hey, I met with Mr. and Mrs. Jones. This is what I've learned about them. This is what they're interested in. This is what I've learned. This is what I believe could be some strengths. These are some unique things. He's a teacher. She's a nurse, like whatever it might be. So we kind of get an idea of what your family would be available for. And then if the team will make a decision from there to say, we believe that this is a family that should move forward, then you're invited to foster parent training, which we hold at our office. Well, it's not at our office, it's virtually now, but we hold a couple times a year. And in that training, it is a 24-hour training, I believe, at this point. The state just switched which one we're using. It's about 6 weeks of training. Once a week at night for 3 hours. Actually, we're having one right now from about 6 to 9 p.m. It is virtual. You usually would be in a group of maybe 3 or 4 other families that are going through it at the same time. And that meets for 6 weeks. We have a 7th session after that where we talk very specifically about Loudoun County stuff, all like the financial things and like how do I do this and how do I do that. And that's more like our onboarding, like that's your almost finish. Let me teach you kind of how to do and who are the staff and who's who in the zoo type stuff. And during that time period, you would be meeting with what is referred to as a mutual family assessment assessor. That is a home study worker. You've heard the word home study. MFA is the official way of saying it now. That person comes out to your home at least 3 times, visits with you, learns about you, goes through some of your family history. If you have children, meets with your children to kind of get their perspective. And they gather all of that information, the background checks and the medical checks and the, your marriage license. You're like just certain things to verify things about you. And we put that all in a home study, which is a multiple page document that then says these are the strengths of this family, these are the areas that we need to support, and we believe that they should become a foster parent, or if not, this is why we think maybe they need more time, or maybe need to go in a different direction, and we can make a recommendation like that. And so that's generally the process. So from today being kind of step one, there's, like I said, pre-screening, info session, home visit, then there's training, and the MFA. So you're looking at I would say about 6 months worth of time, depending on how quickly you all also move on doing that. Sometimes people dip their toe and take a little time to decide whether or not this is the right time for them and their family. So I think I might be it. So that is our official flyer. There is a QR code there. There's what we refer to as the Foster Family Highway. If you go on our website, loudoun.gov, and look at foster care, you're going to find this. And there's a link for the Foster Family Highway, and that is a state-based kind of registry now that you would go on. You put in your information, so show that you're interested. It'll go through a couple different registration links, and then that information ends up with Beth Mason, our recruiter. And so then she would call you that way. So you could go about it that way, or you could make a direct call to her if you are interested in at least doing that pre-screening. And we do not discriminate based on race, color, sex, national origin, age, religion, political beliefs, sexual orientation, disability, or family status in the decision-making of who becomes a foster family. We need everybody. We need families of every race. We need older, younger. We have a number of single parents right now who are foster parents. We have, actually a number of younger ones right now too. People in their 20s who have decided to give back at an earlier age. And we've had folks who are empty nesters and said, I'm not done parenting. I'm coming back. And this is a way to give back to my community in doing that. So, yeah. And I think the next one is, do you have any questions? Yeah. Yeah.
Start to get their
All of that.
home ready.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
At what point would they have to start to prepare their home?
So that initial home visit I was saying, if you have not parented, you don't have kid stuff in your home, or you've done with parenting, all the stuff left, do not go out and buy it right then.
Okay.
I can walk into your house and the room you want to use could be an office right now. That's totally fine. It could be a guest room. It could be full of boxes and storage and stuff like that. What we would be doing in that first home visit is there's a room, and it has a window and it has a door and it's safe, and I'm not seeing things that could hurt a child, and I'm seeing that it's not too far of a distance maybe from the parents, things like that. I don't need it to look like a child's room at that point, nor do you need to have that equipment. Our foster families don't always have the equipment that they need for a particular child on the day a child comes to their home either, because they might have not expected a baby, and I'm calling them now, and I say I have a 4-month-old, right? Or I have a child with a disability and they need a special bed. They might not have it that day, but I will tell you, we have a lot of community partners who I'm going to call, and I'm going to call different people, and I'm going to say, I need a bed, I need a dresser, I need a high chair, I need a stroller, and we will start gathering a lot of that for you. So I definitely suggest not to go out and buy a whole bunch of age specific, because you might not ever even need that specific age equipment you just bought. But having a room empty and ready by the time you're approved. So I wouldn't change rooms or change anything in your room until you are maybe at the point of interviews. And, you're really working with someone who's coming into your home all the time.
Okay. Next question. What about a couple? Because I know we're kind of close to different counties. Let's say the couple's living in Fairfax County, but they may move to Loudoun County. Which county should they be working with?
Ideally, you work with the county in which you live. But I will tell you this. I have 5 families who don't live in our county. I have like 2 in Gainesville and Haymarket. I have someone out in Winchester. I have someone in Richmond. We have families that came to us for whatever reason. They ended up connecting with us, and we can recruit them as our family. So I have a family full of kids in Richmond, in the Richmond area. Sometimes we need some homes that are not right here. Sometimes it might be better to be at a distance. So I will keep this in mind. Depending on your lifestyle and your time, when you are working with that agency, you're going to be expected to bring that child to court. You're going to be expected to bring that child to certain meetings that might be in the county in which the child was brought into care. So if you're in Winchester and the county's here in Loudoun, you got to be willing to be going up and down Route 7 quite often.
Okay. Last question. Sorry for all the questions. Do you have to work with certain babysitters? I think just from a friend that knows someone that fostered. Now they fostered, back like 20 years ago. They said that you had to have like certain certifications to, like, the babysitters had to
Yeah,
be certified by certain
that has
programs and all.
changed.
Okay.
Yeah, it has changed quite a bit. What we lump a lot of that type of things into what we refer to as normalcy. She just said the word, they just laughed. So normalcy. Normalcy is what would you do for your own child, right?
Okay.
And if your neighbor is who you entrust your own child to watch if you have to run up the street real fast or this, that, and the other, and that neighbor knows the child who's in your home, and that child is comfortable with that neighbor, that's okay.
Okay.
You can do those things. If it's going to be overnight, the agency wants to know, And so, like, if your parents come in from out of town and you go out on date night and you spend a day and you do that, that's great. The children need to have normalcy. They don't need to have a number of strangers continuously coming into their life. But if somebody who's in your life and around the children and around them all the time, that's who they're going to be comfortable with, and that's who we want those children to be with in those shorter daycare or babysitting situations.
Are you allowed to go to other states to visit your relatives and take them like Christmas and like, okay.
Yeah. So our children, we encourage them to go on all the fun vacations that people go on. They should go and experience these things. The main thing is for us to make sure that we're not interrupting family time with their parents or their family members. If they have weekly visits or this, that, and the other, we want to make sure that we get the buy-in, that the children are okay with doing that. They might not want to miss the visit or things like that. So, especially over a holiday. So it's not a guarantee that you can or that you will, but you can.
Okay.
We are in Prince William County. And as you know, in Virginia, children's profiles are not shared images. So for us, it's a bit challenging to find the child based on characteristic. Project Belong helped a bit because they share some videos of the children. Are there any other resources we can look for a child with the images?
Well, you have the Adopt US Kids. That might be one you've already on.
But Virginia, images are blank. In
Yeah,
Adopt US.
They don't.
Kids,
They don't.
yeah.
You said the images
No,
don't come up.
no.
It might be something Virginia does that they're not doing that. I think they're looking to not kind of base off of of that. I haven't looked on there in a long time. You know, you can. I know a lot of adoptive parents. If you have like a flyer for yourself, I think a lot of times they do, or have like kind of like a small summary or a flyer, things like that. You can often send that to the different agencies as well, and just say, hey, I am an adoptive parent in Northern Virginia who I am looking to adopt a child, you know, between 6 and 15 or something, and you could send that out to the different agencies as well, and they can consider your home for children who are freed for adoption in their custody.
Okay. Another question. So when I sent the application to the county, I assume they assigned us to the agency, public agency, but it's appeared that they're not interested in domestic adoption. And I read somewhere that I can just transfer my home study to DSS directly. Is it true?
There
And not to
yeah.
be assigned to any agency, just go through DSS directly.
So you can transfer approvals. Like I keep trying to get them to come over to us. So, but you can transfer home study approvals from one agency to the other, public to private, and back and forth. It is whether or not the public agency at that point has a need for what it is that you're looking for as well. You can also adopt a child who's in our custody from your private agency. So that does occur. So if you are a therapeutic foster care family, or if you're a private adoptive family, you're approved to adopt across the board. What your agency that you're with can be working with the public agencies to say what children in care that you have that are ready and open and freed for adoption that might meet this family, what you are looking for. And so that is an option that you could look at as well. So you don't have to be a Loudoun County family to adopt a child who's in our custody.
Okay, and last question. So we have 5 biological children, and it's the first time we're adopting a child. And we sent 2 inquiries to different caseworkers about 2 different children, and both of them, they denied our family because we have so many children already. Is it very common that, I understand it's more trauma related to the child because they're more interested in single child family, or no children at all in family? Just asking if it's very common that if you have so many children already, they would deny your family.
I think it's all dependent on that specific child. I will say, if I was to take a certain child and place them in a home with no children, some children would absolutely do terrible and hate it, you know, because they want friends next door in the same room with them. With that, you know, some of them have come from families that are very, you know, active and a lot of work, a lot of activity going on all the time. So being a big family or having no children shouldn't be an across the board yes or no. It's going to be more about matching a specific child and their needs to what your family has for that. And some of those needs might be that you might need more time for a specific child, because if you have, I don't know how many you have, but if you have 10 kids or something like that, how much time do you have left over to specifically meet that child's needs? So that might be why sometimes they move on to say, your home might be too big for this child.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there a specific name for how you just mentioned you can privately adopt a child in foster care? Is that called something specifically?
You would not be approved through Loudoun County. So there are private adoption agencies throughout America, right? You know, there are, so there would be different private agency. I'm not familiar with that many anymore right now, but the Bear Foundation, Barker Foundation, there's a couple of them that if you Google private adoption agencies from here, they have their own sets of approved families that are approved specifically for adoption. And they then contract with the public agencies to work with those public agencies to say, hey, Loudoun County, if you place a child in our home, we have kind of a contracted relationship with them, with a therapeutic foster care agency or a private adoption agency. The public agency will contract with them to then potentially, if I don't have a home of one of my families, I always go to one of my families first. And if I, for some reason, don't have a good match with one of my families, then we will look at the private agencies and the therapeutic agencies in our area to say, hey, do you have a family that could potentially be a good match for this child?
Okay.
Just tell me real fast, how do the responsibilities for the foster family differ for that 18 to 21-year-old group? Are you still focused on reunification with the family, or is it more transition to adulthood? Just give me a little bit of information on that.
More often transition, but a lot of them are still having contact with their family. If they're 18 and they're still with us, likely enough efforts have been made to say we're not going to be able to go home right now. But like I'll say right now, I have one who's right over 18. He is home with his mom, but he's still working with us. So sometimes they have made a decision to return to family, but are still needing the support of the agency. And at 18, they can choose where to live. And so at 18, sometimes they're in our foster homes. Sometimes they might have returned to family. Sometimes they might be in what we refer to as independent living programs, like apartment programs that are specific to working with this age group. We have kids who are in college. We have one who actually just turned 21, was at Virginia Tech. I was going down and visiting, so, and, doing wonderful things with their lives and things like that. And they just continue to need that support. On average, kids in America are connected financially or otherwise to their parents until the age of 26. So, and so if we're saying at 21, kids who have been in care are ready to go out on their own, they're not. Nobody is. Even if you've been given everything, you still need that support, whether it's daily or someone to be able to check in with you, someone to go home to Christmas for, financials, someone to help you get your driver's license and things like that. So if a child is in your home and they're between the age of 18 and 21 and you're a foster parent, you could still be parenting or mentoring. And it depends on what that specific child needs. So if a child's potentially been in your home before that, right, you might be more of a kind of a parental figure, and things like that. But sometimes if they've entered your home after that, sometimes it's more of a mentoring relationship that they have in your home, where you are making sure that they are getting the skills, saving money, going to school or vacation, or not vacations, vocational school, things like that, vacations too. But doing that so that your approach might be different depending on that specific child. Well, thank you for having me. If you guys have any questions, certainly, like I said, Beth Mason is our recruiter. She is our main point of contact for folks who are just interested in learning more about it. We are welcoming of every phone call from everyone in the room. If you want to just explore the idea, I think you're going to have a really good experience here learning from the families who have been doing the work. They are our best window into what this world is, and many have built their entire lives around it. Some families in foster one child and it becomes permanent, and that becomes their story. Some foster, I don't even know how many, and that becomes their story. And so each one can be so unique. And so that's an important thing to be flexible and look at it and be realistic about what it is that your heart's being pulled towards, and what you think you can absorb into your life. That's really, if I'm going to say my final word, that would be the most important thing, is to be really true to what it is that is being called for you. I've seen people kind of go towards a fostering route when they are more adoption, and I will say in the end, they will not be satisfied with that, and the children, the most important part, the children won't either. So I think it's an important thing to really understand what it is that you're willing to do. So that's it.
Thank you.
You're
so
welcome.
much. We're going to take like a 5-minute break, and then we're going to have the panel assemble up there, and we'll hear from them. So thank you. Thanks, Heather. Thank you so much. Get some snacks. There's snacks in the back. Do you want them? I'm gonna leave this one over here. Yeah, for her. But you are welcome to also speak. All right. All right, you gang.
All right. All right. Check, check, check. All right, we are going to get started with the panel portion of our evening. What we're going to do is we're going to start with each family just introducing themselves, kind of giving us like a brief, like mini testimony, introducing their family members, and then if they've adopted or fostered, and giving us kind of like a quick story about just how that went down. If you talk to each one of them, we could probably spend like an entire like evening sharing our stories. So it's going to be hard to get everything in, but they have a lot of good wisdom and some really great stories of how God's worked in their adoption and foster story. So I will go down the line and just introduce you to our panel, and then we will let them get started. First, we have Susie Smith. She and her family, their adoptive family internationally, correct? Yes, okay. Also testing my memory a little bit. We have Kristen Pushak, also adopted internationally. Alice and Kyle Morse, who have their sweet little baby right here, who they adopted domestically, infant adoption. And then we have Beverly and Chip McCauley, who have fostered and adopted through foster care. We have 2 mics tonight, and so the families are going to share the microphones. Since there are some families who maybe came last week that couldn't come this week, we are recording. So when you ask a question, they're going to repeat it back to, or try to remember to repeat it back, so that if someone's watching later, they have a sense of what we're talking about. So do you want to get started? You just share. Yeah, just introduce your family. Tell us a little bit about you, and then whether you adopted, foster, just kind of a little mini story, mini testimony.
My name's Susie, and we had 3 birth children. And then I actually, probably from the time I was like 5, wanted to be involved in the lives of orphans in some capacity. And then just time evolved. I looked into foster care when I was in college, not to do it at that time, but just to learn more about it. And then finally talked my husband into doing foster care, and we were trained, signed up, and didn't get a placement, and then just kept praying, and ultimately, after praying for 6 years that God would change his heart and he would want to adopt with me, I finally let it go, and he finally decided he wanted to do that. So we ended up adopting a little boy after having 3 of our own birth children from Uganda. And he was 3 and a half when we adopted him. And our family spent 9 weeks overseas for the adoption process. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Kristen Pushak, and my husband Joe and I, we adopted a little boy just a year and a half ago, a little bit less than a year and a half ago, from Hungary. And so we have 3 biological children. So Joseph, our adopted son, is our youngest, and kind of a similar story in that God put adoption on my heart from the time I was young. And we moved a few years ago, and I found this project I did, and in it I wrote about adoption in like middle school. So God put it on my heart, and it took the Lord a little longer to work on my husband's heart also. But he ended up just being very open, and just to where God would lead us, and we just kept stepping out in faith, and God kept providing and clearly leading us to Joseph, and so we're so grateful. He's 8 years old. So we adopted him on the little bit of an older side, so if you have questions about older children. So.
Hi, I'm Allison. This is my husband Kyle. This is Charlotte. She's 3 months old. We have one biological son, Jackson, who's 3, who's at home. It's bedtime. We started the adoption process last March. It was adoption we knew was going to be one way that we grew our family. It's something we talked about when we were dating. I had a high-risk pregnancy with Jackson, and was unable to have any more children. And so we started the adoption process back in March of last year and got matched in October, and Charlotte was born in November.
What she said.
Hi, this is Hayden. He was our youngest, biological. We have Cassie, Isaac, Zeke, Wyatt, and Anthony over here. And these are our children by choice and love and intention. We did not start out, I wasn't like these lovely ladies that decided I was gonna foster and adopt when I was a kid. But when our oldest son was 8, he had a traumatic fall and ended up being declared dead for 6.5 minutes and on life support for a week. And we prayed every day that God would restore him to health. And on the 7th day, as we were praying, they had told us he was brain dead and to donate his organs for a week. And still makes me cry. He's 22 now. While we were praying, and I said, God, if you give him back whole, I'll do whatever you ask for the rest of my life. Don't do that to God. Because that guy that hadn't moved in a week, a twitch, an eye blink, pulled out his own vent tube, said, Mom, snuggle me, and before I forget, Jesus says you're not doing enough to help other people's kids. As God is my witness. We are 52 kids deep in foster care. We've been doing it for a little over 16 years, and it is the most rewarding experience I've ever had. We adopted our daughter Cassie, and our son Isaac, and our son Zeke, and Wyatt and Anthony are with us in foster care right now. They all chose to come tonight to share how they feel about being in foster care and being adopted. And our son Hayden said he would give you a perspective from being a child that was already in the home when it started. So that's our story. Yeah. Oh,
Ditto.
Okay, so now they have introduced themselves a little bit. We want to open up the class to you guys. If you have any questions for them, you can, if you know specifically, like I have a foster care question, you can direct it to a specific family, or if you're not sure, you can just throw your question out there and we'll let them fight over the microphone. So if anyone has a question, you can get started. If you need help, I have a list of questions from past classes, so do not fret. But I see one hand in the back.
So we went through Lifeline Children's Services out of Alabama. It's a really amazing gospel-centered agency, and they discipled us through it. We're super encouraging, and we're still in contact with them. They still offer support, and just been a tremendous blessing. So that's who we used.
I would say I wanted to be wide open. Like, I will adopt from anywhere. I don't care if it's domestic, international, it doesn't matter. And ultimately found out that's not helpful in the adoption process. At least it wasn't when we adopted 12 years ago. So we adopted him when he was 3.5. He's now 15.5. So finally realized, as wonderful as that sounds, we needed to zero in on either domestic or international, and then within international needed to pick which country, because every single country had different requirements. So it was not helpful to be like, whatever you want. So anyway, ultimately just prayed, and then things just, it was really unbelievable. Like, if I told you, like, what unfolded that led us to, okay, it's Uganda. Okay, now we know it's Uganda, and then that helped us zero in on what do we need to do, and we had to adopt independently because not one agency would work with us, because they were not adopting. Nobody was adopting. No agency felt comfortable adopting out of Uganda, so we did it independently, which I did not want to do. I wanted someone holding my hand. So America World Adoption Agency helped with like our home study and training us for what is it going to be like to be parents of an adopted child. But ultimately, we had to do all the paperwork, everything on our own.
We also used an agency, and at first we were considering it because it's a pretty hefty price tag to it as well, just to help guide us through the process when we could read through that and figure that out on our own. Plenty of people do it. Where it really paid off in spades for us and more, our placement was troublesome, to say the least. It was an incredibly hostile hospital and staff there. I don't know exactly what boundaries we'll have there. It was a hostile environment, and it would not have worked at all because we had our agency fighting for us minute by minute, hour by hour. Yeah, fighting for birth parents and us and Charlotte. That would have fallen through a dozen different ways. So we kind of went through it just because we were first-time adoptive parents, help us figure out the process, and that ended up saving us big time.
And I'll say similarly, we also were like, God, whatever, like whoever, wherever, we're open to anyone, anywhere. And then through so much prayer, and as I was praying about tonight, I just kept feeling the Holy Spirit impress upon me just the power of prayer. And it was incredible, like every step. I mean, I could tell you a million different things, like why Hungary? We've never been to Hungary, but so many things, like step by step by step, and provision-wise, guidance-wise, the Lord ordered our steps. So, yeah.
Well, and for us too, we're active duty military. We're only here until August, and we started the process back in March. So we were on a pretty tight time frame window for a domestic adoption to work, and having that support that the agency gave us, as they had worked with so many military families before, was just a huge encouragement for us also.
Any other questions? Go for it, Hayden.
I feel like it's been a great opportunity just to see people and kids come from nothing and a hard time to, I feel like it's just cool to like almost have another brother or another sister there to just be with every day. Like I had 2 biological brothers, but even with people coming in and out constantly, it just gives you a new perspective on the world. It makes you understand the world a whole lot better. It's a great learning experience, and also helps you work on other aspects of your life and just learn how to help others through like a hard time, and how to like kind of direct them more towards Christ even in a young age. And just like I feel like it was just overall a very helpful process in my life and guided me to who I was today.
And I can say that he's had foster kids in the family since you were, what, 2.5?
is hard to do once you like get that bond with someone and you like know that person to be with you every single day. It's hard to let them go, but overall in the long run, I feel like the first one was the hardest. But in the long run, you realize that it's just they're with their family that God put them with in the first place, and their family had time to heal. Even though you love that person, obviously God wants them to go back to that home, and if you really like love them, you'll want what's best for them, even if that means like they're leaving you.
Yeah, want to add to that, if you do it right and you have the right environment for them, even if they do leave and go back where they came from, or or decide age out and move on with their life, you've got a lifelong relationship with them. They're always coming to our house. They bring their kids to our house. We have foster grandkids. So, yeah. So if you do it right and everything comes together, it's a lifelong relationship. It's not just, oh, they're gone. So that helps a lot.
They do find their way back a lot. Even if they were young and they aged out, you make such an indelible impression on them that they find you and they seek you out. And it's beautiful when they find you when they're 18 and they call and they're like, hey, this was the best chance I ever had at healing, and I thank you for that. And Thanksgiving at our house might be a little crazy for the quantity of people that we show up, but it's really nice. And we do have, if you have questions of kids that have been in foster care and got adopted, we have 3 over there, and we have 2 that are in foster care that they were happy to answer any questions you have too.
It was fast. It was really fast, and that's a lot of where our faith, we knew that this was what God was calling us to. And we talked about, okay, do we wait until we move again? And we just felt, God really pressing on our hearts that He wanted us here and now to start this process. So it was a big jump of faith for us too. One thing we did is we went through Christian adoption consultants. So we weren't narrowed down to one agency in Virginia. We worked with about 8 different agencies across the United States, which opened up a lot more. We saw a lot more placement opportunities through that. But yeah, we still went into that expecting a 2 to 3 year wait. And again, that's just where we had a lot of conversations and a lot of prayer of, it doesn't make logical sense for us to start that knowing we have a year and a half left here. But when God is calling you to something, you sometimes just have to take that leap of faith. And for us, it was going ahead and starting that process, not knowing if we would have an adoption in that time frame.
So practically, the Christian consultants were, thank you. The consulting agency was the biggest help in that. That was a great boon to us. A lot of it is also how prescriptive you're going to be in what situations you're willing to accept. And they tell you that up front. If you need, this gender and this race and this medical background, and it gets pretty restrictive, and it's like, you're not gonna see a case like this for 5 years. So you open it up, and so we were any race, any gender, as ready and willing as we could, with a few key exceptions situationally. That'll open it up. And part of it, like Allison said, is we got lucky too. There's
blessed. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
No, they were very open, and there are ways, like, we can move after starting that process. A lot of it goes into changing, we would be changing states, and so changing home studies and all that. So it you can do it. They were very open to working with us. So they work with a lot of military families. They work with military families who are stationed overseas as well. So that was one of the reasons we went with them, is how knowledgeable they were with all the ins and outs of adopting as a military couple.
So they're nationally certified?
Yes, yep.
Did you have to, I think I heard you say you work with different agencies, right?
Yeah.
So with different, was there a need for you to have a home study for each, or you just have one?
We had one home study. We went through a Virginia home study agency. And so it's,
Each agency needed to have one?
it was just one home study. Yep. So we're home study certified in the state of Virginia, and the other agencies we work with accepted that home study. Yep. So we didn't have to like get a home study in each of the states that the agencies were in. And she was even adopted outside of Virginia, but our home study still worked with that as we were Virginia certified. To go through, once she was born, we were in the state that she was born in for a little longer because it had to go through that state's court system and this one. But no, it was just one home study.
So then, if you were to have moved in that process, they would have just had to do an addendum to the home study?
We would have, yeah, so we were supposed to move to Ohio, be stationed in Ohio back in December timeframe, and we would have had to go then through the Ohio home study system. So it would have like extended it, it would have taken like an extra 3 months to go through their home study. You have to be living in that state. Like, we couldn't take our Virginia home study to Ohio if we lived in Ohio. Does that make sense? So like if we had moved to Ohio and we're stationed there and we're living there, we would need an Ohio home study. But because we could have adopted from a different state if we were living in the state our home study was through. Sorry.
How long did you end up, you adopted her from a different
Yes,
state?
we were,
How long did you have to stay?
we were there for 2.5 weeks. Yeah.
We threaded the needle perfectly.
It was-
Where it was after the government shut down, but
Before Thanksgiving, so they tried to get everything rushed. Yeah, they said to expect to be there for 3 to 4 weeks, and we were there about 2.5. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that's what we were prepared for.
yeah. Well, and a lot of it depends too on if there's hospital stays for baby or anything, and she did not have that, so.
There are different type of rules according to the country, I think, a convention. Oh. Yeah, I was gonna ask with regard to international adoption, right? There are different type of, I think there's some, is it
The Hague Convention?
Yeah, that. So did you first needed to have that information that the country, or did you have to choose based on that or not?
Yeah, so Lifeline, the agency we went through, they work with Hague Convention countries, and so we did have to go through, we did have to work with Hague Convention countries, which Hungary is
Okay,
a part
so-
of. Yeah.
Oh, all right, thank you for that.
And we were, I think I'm like rusty because it was 12 years ago, but I do remember that wording, but I think we were non-Hague. And honestly, we also threaded the needle and we were able to get him. And then like 2 months after we left, there were all these restrictions put on adoptions in that country where we would not have been able to get him had we gotten him 3 months later. So.
Yeah, I think you answered the question. You anticipated my question. You answered my question.
Okay, can I add, I just want to add something to her question earlier. I just want to encourage all of you, if you have any desire to adopt or do foster care, I believe that's from the Lord. And honestly, I had a deep desire to do this, and I thought, well, everybody does. Doesn't everybody want to bring a child into their home? And come to find out, no. And so just don't bypass that. Like, don't blow past and think, oh, this is what everybody is commissioned to do, because not everybody has that same desire. And regarding my birth children, they adore their adopted brother, and they all would say it's the best leap of faith our family has ever taken, hands down. And they would also say if you asked all three of them, at least two, if not all three, would consider now doing adoption down the road as a result of our experience. So, and the last thing I wanted to encourage you, I have two other friends who felt led by God to adopt, and their process was ridiculously long. And so don't be discouraged. Like, it can be God's will and it can take 4 years. It can be God's will and it can take 6 months, right? Like, that's the hard part of it. So ours was 14 months from start to finish, which is crazy fast internationally. So, but again, we did it independent too, so in some ways there were less roadblocks, but then we had to do a whole heck of a lot on our own and cross every T, dot every I, and neither of us are good at that, and it just worked out, so, yeah.
Yeah, it was on the fast side for us too, under 2 years, like 18 months, I think so. But I would say regarding our biological children are 18, 15, and 11. And so I would say that the hardest part, it was hardest for our youngest daughter because everyone had told her over and over again, like, you guys are going to be best friends, et cetera, et cetera. And Lauren knows this, she's part of our care community, which is also a big blessing. Cornerstone has care communities come around you and provide meals and pray for you. And so thank you. So for our youngest daughter, it was built up so much in her mind and in her heart, and she was so excited, and then he didn't take to her. He didn't think he felt threatened by her because she is the closest in age to him. So she was 9 and he was 7, and then she just turned 10 while we were in Hungary. And so it can be hard, you know. So that's been a hard journey to walk, but we trust that the Lord. I mean, he's faithful, and he led us all to this, and she understands that, and her faith has grown, and she also, we're so blessed, she goes to CCA, which her teachers, her friends pour into her. She loves it. She loves going to school every day. So God's been so faithful in that, and we can see her growing. But it is hard too. So it can be really hard. But for the older kids, it was a lot smoother, and he took to them because I don't think, they're older. He looks up to them. I don't know. It was that was a difficult part of it for us. So.
It is, I don't want to paint a rosy picture like it's all rainbows and sunshine. Hardest for our youngest birth child by far, because she felt replaced, and she was no longer the celebrity and the fun, cute little tiny one, because there was a cuter, tinier one. And so that was tough. And then I will say one more thing on hard. So our adopted child, who is amazing, he has done things as of late that I have never seen my other 3 children do that have rendered me speechless. And I'm not quiet. And so, there's been behaviors that I'm like, I have nowhere to draw on to deal with this. And this is unbelievably shocking. So, there's that too, just so you know. There are both sides, right?
Going is county very strict about house capacity, because we have 4 bedrooms and already 5 children, and they allowed only 1 child to adopt to 1 child.
So for foster care, we can have we're approved for up to 8 children at any given time. And so our youngest just turned 18, so he no longer counts in that pool of children. So we could have actually up to 8 kids at any given time that are under 17 and under.
Okay, but are they allowed like a certain amount of children per room, or?
We have a lot of children in some of our rooms. We have 4 in 1 bedroom, and they get along great.
Yeah, because they told us 2 children per room.
So foster care, maybe adoption is different, but foster care, as long as you have enough bathrooms and beds for those children,
it really doesn't matter. And we have one daughter, poor thing, God bless. We have one daughter and 7 boys. And so, yeah, she gets her own room. She doesn't have to share with any of the boys, but the boys all share.
How much baby proofing for first-time parents do you have to do for that initial house assessment?
I think it's probably a little different. A lot of times, adoption and foster care. We did 4 home study visits before we were home study approved. And yeah, like all your medication has to be locked up in a high cabinet, and we had to show that where she was going to sleep. And they don't care if your house, like she came in, she's like, I don't care if you have a spotless house. I just want to make sure that it's safe. Sorry, we're getting tired. It felt overwhelming looking at the paperwork. It really did. But then when you sit down and talk to them, it's like, because on the paperwork, they're like, well, you need to have plastic sheeting in one of your downstairs bathroom with like enough resources for 2 weeks in case of like all of these things. And we had to have like safe places in like 3 different areas in the city. And then they didn't care about any of that. It was more like, is this a safe home? So it felt overwhelming, but then when you actually sit down with them, they're so encouraging and helpful. It's really not that bad.
So will they come back, let's say they're like, oh, this is one area where you can improve. They'll come back, allow you to improve. Okay.
Yeah, fix something or, yeah, they're not gonna like see something and be like, no, never mind, you're done.
Okay.
They'll allow you to fix something or change something, and
I'd love to hear from anyone who has, especially if the kids themselves want to say anything about adopting or being fostered into, but you're in a situation where the child themselves is a little older, so we have personalities developed and we're trying to get to know each other. I'm sure it's unique depending on every situation, but what that was like.
I was adopted at 4, so I've been with them a long time. I'm turning 20 in March. I know for me, I pushed their buttons a lot. My birth parents weren't good people. My birth mom decided to choose drugs over me. My birth dad died, and she called my mom. She goes, I don't want this child. She's more than half dead. You can take her. You can leave her. She can die. I don't care. So my parents took me. I did push their buttons a lot. I was more scared that they were gonna give up on me and send me right back to where I came from. So I kept pushing them and pushing them and pushing them to see how far it would take for them to actually give up on me. They never did. They're really good parents. But I know, speaking, don't give up on the child you have. It hurts them a lot, and they're just waiting for you to snap and say, I can't do this. That's just, people have done it to them previously, and they're just gonna wait for that. So you just gotta keep encouraging them, telling them you love them, and just tell them that even though they've had a rough past, that you're not gonna give up on them, and you're not their previous homes. And yeah, just make sure you just stay with them and don't give up, because that's really, really a hard thing. Because I know they went to court for me a lot, and my birth dad took me back, and I know that was really crushing for them. And then I came back, and like I said, I pushed a lot of buttons. I was still pushing buttons all the way up until like 3 years ago, because I was like, they're gonna just give me up, like, so, but they never did. So yeah, work with them, tell them you're there, encourage them, get them some friends that you know are good for them. Godly friends, great. Sometimes you need to let them pick their friends, but if you think that's a bad idea, don't be like, this is a bad friend, cut it off. Just be like, hey, so-and-so is making bad choices. Try and lead them to the light. If that doesn't work, you need to sit down and be like, we gave you the chance, so-and-so is not good for you. We don't want you to see you doing the same bad things. And usually it takes a little while for them to understand, but we usually do come around and be like, yeah, I understand that person was not good for me. And so it usually takes a little bit, but it's all God's timing. And just make sure you have them in a good Christian environment. That helps a lot. Yes. I wanted to push them so much to prove to them that they were just like everybody else, to prove that they would give me back, that I was too much for them. But I proved to myself that they weren't giving up on me and that I needed to work on myself and who I was as a person. And I have become a very godly child. I put so much faith in Jesus now, and I'm like, we need more kids in this house. Like, we need to help more people. And so we have all these ones now. So yeah. I know it took me a while because I have trust issues. You can ask my parents. The people that had me before really screwed me over, and so it took me a really, really long time to actually trust people. And I know I still have trust issues. I know how the world works, so I'm like, you're not good. But my older two brothers and Hayden, I knew him when he was 2, so I came to them when he was 2. They helped me a lot, and my older brother, who's 22, he told me when I was 5. He goes, "Your birth dad is not a good person." He's like, "I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Mom's gonna sugarcoat it, but he went to hell. He did bad things to you. He's no longer here." And I was like, oh, Mommy said he went to heaven. He goes, no, he was a bad person. He did not go to heaven. So he definitely helped a lot. He became my role model. I have an older brother who's 15 months older than me. He also helped a lot. Hayden helps a lot. I know I still struggle, but he's always there. My parents are always there. Even sometimes my younger siblings, I'm like, I see my younger self in them. Sometimes I'm like, I need to help these kids. I don't want them to be what I was. So sometimes I see them pushing their buttons. I'm like, okay, let's not do that. So I try and talk with them. Sometimes it doesn't work because there's ups and downs. It's not always going to be perfect. It's definitely a roller coaster, but making sure you give a little space, but not too much where they go off the rails. But make sure you're definitely helping a lot and being like, I'm here for you. No.
Go get to say. Here, give it to me. I think that I think that people should do foster care and not give up on them because my lovely mom and dad didn't give up on me. And a couple of days before my adoption, I did not think I was going to get adopted because I was in foster care for 5 years.
So what I learned from foster care is I've been in 4 different homes in the past 4 years. What I've learned from them, each of them has taught me a special lesson, like about personality and like about life. And I just loved each and every one of them, even though some were probably worse than others. They all tried to help me. And I just like this foster family particularly because they've had more experience than my other past ones. They like to hang out with us. They like to spend quality time with us. They like to just give us what we need. That's not something I could like find in my any other of my foster homes. But I just have mild trust issues too, cause in my other foster home, like one of them, they said that they were going to adopt me and stuff. Like they even got me a phone, but then that didn't end up working out. But then this home has taught me a lot about trust. So each foster home can repair, I guess, another like what you have wrong with you or something. But that's what I learned from my foster experience, that each home has its benefits and it's unique. And it's like no home is just going to be the same. So I felt sad. I mean, it was really crushing to me. But then I went to another foster home, and then they just really upped my mood because they just spent so much time with me that I just kind of got pulled away from that foster family. Like, I accepted that I wasn't gonna be there anymore, but I knew I could still visit them. And, like, in the future, like, when I get a car, I could still go out. Like, it's like what they said. They're not gone entirely. I can still visit them. It's just, there I can't, like, see them now.
My name's Anthony, and I was a kid that got bullied a lot by my parents. My mom chose my birth-related mom chose the wrong guy, and he started beating me. But the day I came here, I felt like that it was the best day of my life. And I think that if anybody wants to do foster care, they should pick on the right kids and keep their hearts keep on going and love the right kids. Every kid.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Are there support groups in school for kids that are in like foster care or in the county? Have you been able to make friends that are in similar experience, like at a similar experience with you?
So my parents are firm believers in homeschooling because, but they're doing a my 2 brothers are doing a Christian school that has a travel football team. But most of them, I know Zeke and Isaac, they had to go to public school. That's what the state required. But they got bullied there. They were like so rude to them that they chose to move to a different school or be homeschooled. So their public school didn't really help with the support system. So the minute they got adopted, they switched immediately because they'd rather have it. They both have good friends. At church, they have friends at co-ops and the teams they're on. Anthony, I know he has some friends at school, but he hasn't had to experience that yet, so we're just kind of hoping he doesn't have to experience that. But I know that For us, homeschooling was definitely better, or finding a good, solid Christian school that will keep your faith and what you believe in alive instead of telling lies and not what is true.
So what I think about public school and the foster caring system is that if you tell someone that you're in foster care and that you're like in going in for adoption, if they like make fun of you or pick at you for something like that, then I don't think you should hang out with them anymore. Because in one of my other foster homes, I told some people that, and then they just kind of exploited that and used that against me. And then in another foster home, I said that, but that time they didn't exploit that, and they supported me, and they became very interested in my foster care life. So it just depends on what kind of people you really hang around with. And so public school is not really a big challenge for like social for me. I don't know about Isaac or Zeke or Anthony, but for me, it's like not really a challenge. But sometimes it can be like if you choose the wrong people to hang out with. But sometimes you can't really choose the people you hang out with. Like, 'cause sometimes you're just surrounded by mean people. So, yeah, that's what I have to say about public school.
Thank you, guys.
Y'all don't have to say anything, but I was curious if there was, from the kids especially, any other thing you wanted us to know that we didn't specifically ask, but that in your head you're like, you should know this, or I'd like to share this. Is there something we didn't ask?
What did y'all ask?
I didn't hear none of that.
Advice that you should know if you're advice that you should know if you're adopting. Don't ever push your kids too far. Just let them do the easy things before you make them do the hard things. I just hope that we change your minds tonight and that you guys start fostering people.
I would like to say that fostering is a good thing. When I found out that I was first getting adopted, I was very excited, and I prayed to God every night that I would get adopted, and when it finally happened, I was just very excited. Foster care is something that is a choice, and if you have the option to do it, you should really do it.
Also, one more thing, make sure you're completely honest with them. Even if it's hard, be honest, because sometimes if you say something, sugarcoat it, and it comes back up later in life, it's going to be more difficult for them to understand. They're going to lash out at you. They're going to be more difficult to deal with. So 100% honesty, even if it's hard. Just have a sit-down conversation with them. Be like, hey, I know this is going to be really hard to hear, but this is the full truth, everything that you need to know, and it'll help the transition or the growing up to be a little easier.
Whenever a kid's going into a new home, or like whenever I was going into a new home, I just thought of it as like uncharted territory. Like I didn't know the rooms of the house or anybody's names when I first came into this house. But then after a while, you just have to let them get used to it. And then after a while, you can start really just laying down some basic ground rules. But you have to let people get used to it first, because when they first come to the house, you lay down a bunch of rules like do this, do that, and then don't go into that room, and all this bunch of stuff, and it'll really set a bad impression. But just the first night, just lay down a few ground rules, like the more basic ones, and after they get adjusted, then you can really start telling them what really specific stuff you want to tell them. But just let them get used to it for a while, because if you just start doing that immediately, then they'll just get the bad impression that you're really strict and you want everything to get done the way that you want to do that. And I just think that really hinders them getting able to bond with you and being able to express freedom or something like that.
I'm just glad that my mom and my dad adopted me even through the hard troubles.
Even when it's in a dark time and you don't believe that it's going the way that you want it to, a Bible verse that I really like is Psalms 23:4 that says, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for your rod and thy staff, they comfort me through all my days." So that's saying always trust in God. Don't turn your back from God. Always follow his path and go the direction he wants you to.
Never spoil your kids because you want the right kids and the grandchildren, right?
I had a question, that some people asked last week, but no one asked today. But there were a lot of questions about open adoptions and what that looked like. So if anyone would be willing to share kind of what, if you chose open adoption, and what that looks like for your family.
We would have loved to have an open adoption and prayed so very much to be able to find his birth parents, but never did. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I always felt like if he could at least have a picture, an opportunity, anything, it would help him in the long run to have that option. So we would have been more than open, but we don't know who they are. So.
Yeah, similar. So the same, yep, we're in the same boat with that. And I was going to say something else. I can't remember. Oh, I was going to say that because Joseph, someone asked a question about being a little bit older, and Joseph being 7 when we adopted him. And it was neat what the Lord had done, though, because he was in a foster home, but he was ready for a family. He wanted a family. So the Lord had already worked on his heart in that so kind of like you guys are so articulate and impressive. I'm so impressed. But kind of similarly to them, he was so excited and ready to have in Hungary when we take him to the playground and people would try to speak to him in Hungarian. He'd say, "Nope, I'm American." We've tried to take him to Hungarian festivals. We're like, we can buy you Hungarian shirts. Nope. I want an American flag for Christmas, English. That's it. And so he just really took to that. We're grateful for that. But he was ready, like you guys, and wanted that, which is a blessing for us too.
We are really blessed to have a really special relationship with both her birth mom and birth father. We went into the adoption process willing to have either closed or open adoption. We are able to text and talk to them. We probably talk to them 4 or 5 times a week right now and exchange pictures and FaceTime. And it's been really special. We're actually going up next weekend to visit them. It's been really special. I will say there was a lot of hard with that I wasn't expecting, also in the way of walking through our biggest moments of joy and welcoming her into our home and our family, but walking through that loss with them at the same time. And adoption is not one-sided. It's not one, it's both. Leaving that hospital room with her and having all that joy and looking at her and knowing the loss that she just experienced and watching them experience that loss, it was really a difficult few weeks, I would say, and it still is, of processing that and walking through that with them. They've been amazing, nothing but gratitude in their loss. And I think it's been really amazing. My son, who's 3, I didn't think he would understand, honestly, that much. How much he understands about that relationship also. Like, he can tell you, like, I was in mommy's tummy, but Charlotte was not in mommy's tummy. And you can ask him, like, well, where was she? And he goes, she was in another mommy's tummy. And that mommy loved her so much that she wanted her with our family, and Jesus brought her to our family. And watching him love her older biological sister through pictures and everything, it's been really special. It's hard. It's hard, and I know she's gonna have a lot of questions one day too, but it's been a really special, amazing relationship with them also. And there are boundaries that you need to set, but it's been really special.
And then this does touch on one of the answers that I remember when we were in the seats asking the panel members 2 years ago, was on this exact topic. And they talked about, and we'll have this as she gets a little older, because we were talking with some of the adoptive children that are now adults themselves. And so much, it's critical for developing minds to have a singular set of parents. This is mom and this is dad. And some children growing up elementary to high school can kind of compartmentalize this. These are my parents, and yeah, I also have biological parents. And then that's perfectly healthy and fine for them to continue to have a relationship and visits and whatever else it is. For some, as children, that's outright traumatic. That's psychological trauma. I've got 2 parents, I've got 2 moms, and they just kind of go a little haywire. So as special as her biological parents are to us, we will continue talking to them ourselves, figuring out exactly what that relationship looks like with her is going to change. It'll ebb and flow, and it'll depend on each individual child. That one just stuck out to me when we went to this panel, so I wanted to make sure that I got included on this topic.
Beverly, do you have anything to share on this?
I think the only thing for us is we don't have that option of open and closed, because in foster care, there's TPR, which means termination of parental rights, and you're viewed as the enemy for the rest of your life. Because you're viewed as who did it, even though you were the one that was supporting the child through the trauma that they created. So for us, it's not really an option to even have open or closed when there's TPR.
At the final stage, when it comes to names, do they change names or they keep the birth names?
So we changed Cassie's name when she first came. Our oldest son said he didn't like her name that she had, and he goes, "Mom, she doesn't look like that name. She needs a different name." And I was like, "Okay then." And so in the beginning, she was like, "Well, that's not my name." And our oldest son's name is Riley, and my dad used to call him Jimmy because he wanted him named after him. And he goes, "Guess what? My name's not Jimmy, but that's what Granddaddy calls me. And it's okay, so it's gonna be okay that I call you Cassie, because I like that name better." And I was like, "Oh, Lord Jesus, how is this gonna go?" And she was like, "Oh, okay, that's fine." And then Zeke, when he first came, he was 4 as well, and he asked for a new name. And he asked for a new name because he didn't want anyone to find him when he got bigger. And so he asked my husband. I had veto rights, but I figured I got to hold him and carry him. He could be able to name him. And so he asked for a new name. And so then we asked Isaac if he wanted a new name, and Isaac wanted a new name. And so we were able to bless them with new names for when they came to our family.
Yeah, most of them are really longing for a new beginning, and they don't want to carry that baggage, so they look at it as a fresh start and a new chance at life and a new family, and that gives them some comfort that they're accepted and they have a new beginning and the past don't matter.
Thank you so much. You guys were amazing. We really appreciate our panel and you guys sharing your wisdom and the experiences that you've had. We're going to wrap up because our time is over. I did want to say something real quick. I like that we had a question about the Hague Convention. And I was thinking about this earlier when you mentioned that you adopted from Uganda, which is not part of the Hague Convention. I just want to encourage you, and we talked about this a little bit with birth order last week, that there are things and there are wisdoms and there are protocols and ways that we may be recommended or the world would recommend we do things or that seem logical, but that's not always what the Lord has for us. So I just want to encourage you that, like for them, for example, they were called to a specific country. So if you feel like a calling that maybe the world wouldn't say is like the logical thing to do, just encourage you to like have an open hand to what the Lord leads you. It could be adopting or fostering out of birth order, which some agencies may not recommend. It may be a country that maybe the agency doesn't have on their list, but that might mean you need to go a different avenue if what the Lord is calling you to. So I love that you asked that because that's something that when she said that, I was thinking, oh, we talked about that last week. But just to really keep your open hand to what the Lord is calling you to do. I wanted to just close by sharing a couple of things about our ministry. We would love to walk through this process with you. If you decide the Lord is calling you to adopt or foster, let us know. We'd love to walk through that. We'd love to help you. We'd love to be there for you. We'd love to include you in fellowships with other families. We'd love to give you wraparound care if that happens for your family. So just let us know. We'd love to support you in that way. If you are in the season of waiting or you're not sure, we have needs for wraparound care for our families that have done it. So if you're interested in joining a care team to wrap around a family, please let us know. We would be happy to utilize you that way while you're waiting. But I'm just going to close us in prayer, and we'll hang around for a few minutes if you have any questions. Lord, thank you so much for this beautiful evening. Thank you for all these families and all these beautiful children who just shared from their heart. And we're just so thankful for you, Lord, and for your gift, again, of adopting us and loving us. And thank you for the opportunity that you give us as believers to follow you in that way and to do something in your image and to follow you and to do what you call us to do. Lord, we just pray that a special blessing on these families and these kids. We pray that you would just continue to reveal yourself to them. We pray that as a church we would just wrap around them and love them well so that they can keep doing what you've called them to do. We pray for any families that are interested in fostering and adopting. We pray that you would just guide them and give them wisdom and discernment through the process. In Jesus' name, amen.